So thank you for being here. My name is Morag Gamble. I'm here from the Permaculture Education Institute, and tonight's session is all about the kind of programs that we run here. What I'm going to be doing is walking you through kind of what we do here. We have a number of students who are part of the program with us today as well, who can share with you what they've done. I'm not priming them, they can just share with you whatever it is that they've been doing with their program and how they've applied what they've learned. And then heaps of opportunity to ask questions as well about anything that you'd like to find out about the programs that we run here. But before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm meeting with you and that I live, work and play. I'm here on the land of the Gubbi Gubbi people on the banks of the Mookaboolra River, otherwise known as the Mary River. So I'm located in an eco-village. I've been living here in a permaculture eco-village for over 21 years now, experimenting on a daily basis what it means to live a permaculture life. And my life and my work has pretty much entirely been, since forever, to do with living and working with permaculture and being a permaculture educator. So I've taught around the world, on 5 continents I've taught, and I've taught face-to-face, I've taught through translators, and now the programs that we run here through the Permaculture Education Institute are predominantly online, which is has so many benefits, and I'd like to kind of share with you what those are as we go through. But anyway, welcome, and it's really lovely to have your company today. What I will do is just share my screen because I want to show you sort of the breadth of what we do and show you inside the course and some of the background things that are going on, and then take you across into some of the different programs that are associated with what we do. So let me just share my screen. You'll see my messy background. Oh, it's not too bad today. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so welcome. This is the second open day. I decided to start running these open days just because I thought it was a really good opportunity for people to meet face to face, for you to have a chance to ask any questions that you want, and like I said, to meet students who are part of the program already. So what do we do here and what we'll explore? So essentially what we have is the Permaculture Educators Program. We do shorter Incredible Edible Garden, which is an online introduction to permaculture. We have Perma Youth programs, Ethos Foundation, which is a registered charity. And then I run things like the Sense Making the Changing World, which is podcast talking with leading ecological thinkers around the world. And then blogs and a YouTube called Our Permaculture Life, which is something that you may well have accessed already, which gives just hundreds of films and articles about practical permaculture tips. I also run something called Morag Unplugged, which is basically a permaculture business program and working towards creating a permaculture education summit and a social media course for permaculture people next year. So I'm just going to chat about some of those things and then open it up for you to ask questions and meet the students. So if you feel like there's a question emerging and you want to ask it, while I'm in the presentation, I might just keep going because that way I can be quicker and get through it all, and then we can spend most time in questions. If you have a question that you don't want to lose, just pop it in the chat. So then we've got it. Okay, so essentially, I just want to begin by talking about the Permaculture Educators Program. It is a combination of 2 certificates, so the Permaculture Design Certificate and the Permaculture Teacher Certificate. And what I've done is try to weave the 2 together. So even though you sort of work through the modules of one first and then you work through the modules of the second one, as you're going through the design course, we're always talking about how we can teach each of those modules, each of those aspects. And so even though you may have done a permaculture design course before, in this way, you actually get the teacher's part wrapped around it. So the idea is that when you exit this course, or actually even in the midst of it, you're designing and you're teaching and you're finding a way of creating a livelihood with permaculture, which is why I also include a few business modules. And all of the conversations that we have around always touch on all these different aspects, so that it's really about how permaculture can be your way of life and your livelihood too. However, having said that, if you wanted to just come in and take the, really focus on design and setting up your own place, that is also entirely possible. So it's a global course. It has members from 6 continents. That's every continent except for Antarctica. And the content is global. So even though there's sort of core principles and practices that go on, the way that you apply that can be adapted to whatever context you're in, whether you're in a rural or urban context, or whether you're from Tasmania or from the Philippines. And I've really purposely designed this program so that it is entirely flexible, meaning that you can start anytime. So you could start today, or you could start next week, or you could start next month. And you can take as long as you need. There's some people here, honestly, who could vouch for that they've been here for years. Other people race through it quickly. And I think this is really important. The whole point is that it's spacious, that you can take your time, weave your way through it, and put it down for a bit, come back to it. Particularly over these last few years, it's been really important that this has been possible, because people's lives have turned around. So it's a way that I've designed it so you can weave it to whatever the pace of your life is, and make it work for you, essentially. So it's a blended course, meaning that there's a whole range of different content that's part of this. So we have the online content, which is inside the course that you get access to, and each week a new module will arrive in your inbox. And I also send out weekly emails that give you updates about any of the live sessions that are coming up. It's the forums that are taking place. I'm just going to mute you. I'm sorry about that. There was a really interesting industrial sound going on. So we have forums. We also have a whole range of different kind of chats. And even though it's an online course, please don't be mistaken. This is not a practical hands-on course, because essentially every step along the way, you're encouraged to take it to your community, take it to your place, start actually making it happen. So then you can come back into the course as well and ask questions about what's going on, find out, how you can make a difference in doing that. So it's an entirely blended course as well. So essentially what you get is 44 modules. I haven't included them all here, but when we start, we're looking at, the permaculture design course in this section, and then we end up looking at the permaculture teachers course with the business modules, and then a couple of review modules that are just about to be added. And so that is 44 modules all up together. And so what happens is when you're in there, we're about to move it to a new platform. And this is anyone who starts next year will be in this platform. So it might look different to some of you who are in there already, but this is where we're going. So you'll get these tiles and you'll see all the modules that you have access to. And then you can see how far you've actually gone through them. So if you wanted to come back to a module, you can see them here. You can see, oh, I haven't finished this one yet. I might drop in there and click the view button and in you go. So it's, the way that you move through the course is really quite intuitive. And so inside the course, what you'll find too is that there's each module has a series of lessons, and then you can click on each of these and you'll get videos, you'll get text, you'll get some diagrams, photographs. There'll be things that are suggested for you to do actions with. So what could you do related to that particular module? And then lots of references as well. So if you were passionate, for example, about soil, you could just take a deep dive there and look at every single reference that was there, all the things, and spend quite some time. But if you're already quite familiar with soil, or you just wanted to move past that, then you can move to the next one. But there are these opportunities to connect out in so many different directions. So it's really flexible and spacious in its structure, which means that if you get to a point where you really want to focus, then you can. You cannot fall behind in this course. That is just an impossibility. There are also a series of worksheets in the first part of the course, which is talking about, what is permaculture, what is your intent with being a permaculture designer and teacher, how can you apply the principles, having a look at your site, really getting that sort of framework for your, and then when you start to move into your design projects. And they're downloadable and online. And then we've got a whole lot of live sessions. So the live sessions, we have permaculture pollination sessions, which is really where people from around the world are coming together to talk about their projects, their work, their ideas, their questions, and do a lot of cross-fertilization of ideas in that way. We have a monthly masterclass where it's basically a topic that has been sourced from the broader community, and I create a different lesson that's not in the course necessarily about that topic, and then we can have conversations live while that's on. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the design studio and education lab in a minute. Anyone who's joining who is a young person or would like to support young people, there's also a global Perma-Youth network. And then we have a film club as well. So what we do is during the month, we'll watch a really interesting related film and then come together and have a conversation about that. And how does that apply to permaculture design or being a permaculture teacher? Or how could you possibly use that film in your permaculture education work? So, you know, all of these live sessions are actually optional. You don't need to come to them, but they're there if you'd like to. So we have a whole calendar of sessions that are available, and you get this calendar at the start of next year. I'll create a new calendar which goes out. Then we have weekly emails that go out to remind you that they're on. So you don't have to actually remember that, but it's there if you want to kind of map out your year. So these are the pollination sessions that we have, and then and they're based on Zoom and breakout rooms. Then we have design studios, and so with the design studio, basically someone will share what they're working on. So this is one of the designs, and it's actually going through the process. So I've got my map, and this is how I've been thinking about water, and this is what I'm thinking about the plants and how I'm going to integrate those, actually going through the process of sharing the design and asking questions. So for you as a participant, you get to see what other people are doing with it. You get to learn different strategies. But as an educator trainee too, you're starting to look at, well, how can I give good feedback about this? How can I ask questions that will evoke a really good response from this person? So it has these multiple dimensions as well. And so they look different. You know, some have photographs, some have illustrations, some are hand drawn, some are computer drawn. And there is no one right or wrong way. You know, really it's about the sharing of the ideas and having the conversation about different topics. I mean, this one here from Yul from South Korea was absolutely fascinating, because she was looking at the food forest concept that we're talking about in permaculture and relating it to traditional farming methods and doing research about what she'd seen as traditional Korean farming. So that was fascinating. It's always something new that comes up, which is great. And then in the education lab, so that's the design studio is a place to explore the design side of things. In the education lab, obviously, it's where we focus more on, well, how are we teaching permaculture? And so sometimes people share a workshop that they might have organized. And so they will share their planning process. Sorry, you can't read this here. But like their step-by-step process of how they set up the workshop. They'll share out their handouts and then show pictures of what they did. So if you're thinking about trying to work out, well, how do I teach permaculture? This is a chance to dive in and actually see, who's doing what and how it works, and ask questions and really explore ways to become better permaculture teachers altogether. So I find that really exciting. And then all of these live sessions are recorded and popped onto our YouTube channel. That's just a YouTube channel for this course. And so any of the live sessions that have been there, you can go back in and have a look before, and there might be some little special pre-release interviews and things that come up as well. And in order to get the certificates, the 2 certificates I mentioned, a permaculture design certificate, you would need to complete 3 projects. That is a site assessment of your place. So it could be your place, a school garden, a community garden, or a friend's place if they're lucky enough to have your effort put into there. So you really look really closely at that. And I go step by step. The Permaculture Educators Program assessment booklet actually gives you the detailed step-by-step process to go through. So, you don't have to wallow in wondering. It's really laid out for you there. And then after you've really done the observation, looked at the principles and all the preliminary material, then you go into the design. So we don't start at the design, we sort of build up to that. And then we start with a small design, which is just the kitchen garden. And then from there, look at the design for your whole site that you've selected. So that once you finish that and you submit that, that is your permaculture design certificate course. And you are welcome to present that at a design studio and get feedback. You can submit it to me for feedback. And then when you get to the design educators course, the teachers course, the three key projects there is firstly to design a class. So who, in the beginning we sort of think, well, who is it that we want to work with, and what is the purpose of the reason we want to be a permaculture educator, and then we design our workshop based around that. So I'm not telling you, okay, you have to design a workshop that looks like ABC. It's what is the need in your community, who would you like to work with, and let's design a program for that. So designing it, and then you actually start leading it. You actually run a program and then review that. And that is the teacher's course. So by the time you finish the course, you've done design work and you've started teaching and you've looked at business modules. So you're kind of halfway there for really, well, you know, you've started teaching. You are a permaculture teacher by the time you've finished. And like I said before, you know, there's no dates for you having to finish any module. Similarly, there's no dates for finishing any of those assessments. Whenever you submit it, that's the best time for that to be submitted. And I have no qualms if you do it quickly or if you take as much time as you need, and that's totally up to you. So I just wanted to show you a few little bits of student work behind the scenes. And, you know, it was so hard to pick a selection of different things because there's so many amazing things that people have sent me. But this is, so, you know, people start to send me materials as they're developing it. So they send me, you know, their brainstorming or their design maps, or, you know, this is a team that actually was working on it at Plum Village, which is the Thich Nhat Hanh village in France, actually, and they were doing this project together to design the farm of the retreat for this centre. So this is all their brainstorming and their plans, and it's really, you know, the early stages of the course are very much just this rough processes of working it out, and that's absolutely what we need before we get into thinking about design, and definitely before we start thinking about the gardening bit. Some people choose to do this as a like on ideas boards with a, you know, like a Pinterest. So you can do it digitally or you can do it manually. I don't mind, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And then, you know, there's lots of working drawings, and these can be hand done with color pencils. Some people do them with, you know, digital mapping with aerial photographs. Depending on your skill level or whether you just want to pick up a pencil or you're really digitally savvy, it doesn't matter to me. It's what matters is the thinking process. If you feel like, oh, I can't draw, I've never drawn since I was a kid, that doesn't matter. We do have some drawing classes in there, and we can also organize extra classes to support you in that process. So that's, you know, that's not a limitation. And so then, you know, the base plan gets drawn. Some people draw, you know, just black and white ones. Other people start getting their coloring prints, and it's actually a wonderful thing. Many people have said to me, look, I haven't actually drawn since I was a kid, and I get so drawn into this process of drawing. I feel so happy, and so they keep going and coloring it all in, and this is the base plan. This is what is before they even begin starting. So and then they've overlaid, you know, you can do simple overlays with like tracing paper. So again, you know, if you've got digital overlays, you can do that. But if you've just have, you know, pen and paper, that is also fine. We do have people from all different backgrounds. Some are actually taking on this course as a professional development program. So we've got professors in design, we have architects, as well as people who are like young people who are 13 doing it. And whatever your interest, whatever your level of capability, whatever your skills are, there's something you can find in this. So this was done by an architect, based in New South Wales, who's now applying permaculture to their architect practice, and has also gone into university to teach a permaculture approach to, or how permaculture applies to architecture. And so that's been, this course presented an opportunity to spend that time to focus on that and develop the course, which was great. And then this is Joanne, who's here at the moment. This was one of her designs. And so she put together, it's actually obviously much bigger, but that's how I could squish it on the page. So this was her design. And then she put all the details around it. So whatever the plants were, which is really lovely, because it means that, you know, as she comes back to it later, she can see everything that she wanted to put on there and really map that out easily. And this was another design by some people who were quite creative in there. It almost looks like a cartoon type of drawing, and it's beautiful. This was actually what they created, another group created at Plum Village, and that was their sort of aerial plan. And then when they got into their concept plan here, and so they've got lots of details all throughout here. And then there was a really long report that came with it. Some people write reports, some people prepare presentations, some people make little films. And again, there is no real limitation in terms of what it looks like. Again, it's really focused on the thinking behind it. And then Joanne, you're featuring here a bit. This is Joanne. Part of what she does in terms of her education work is in blogging, and she blogs through her art. I blog through articles and photographs. And so when we say the Permaculture Educators Program, I take the biggest possible picture of what education is. That education can be film, music, art, poetry, classes. It can be anything, really. It's about helping people to understand what permaculture is and to help to create a shift towards a more sustainable and regenerative way of living. And like I said, some people do that through film. So this is the Ramonja Foundation, which is a group that are based in a refugee settlement in East Africa, in Uganda. And every time they run a course or do some practical work, they make a little film about it. And this is up on their YouTube channel. Anyone can access this. So anyone who's part of this program gets to find out about all this fantastic stuff that's going on and can tap into all this wonderful resources. And then, like I said before too, if you want to, you know, run classes, then, you know, the course is set up to also help you structure what that class might look like and give you the support to design that class. And it could be music. And actually, I wonder if I can, I might just stop sharing. I'll do it at the end, actually. I want to share with you the song from Alison here. Alison is one of the students of the course, and she said when she got to module 31, I asked her, well, I asked everyone at module 31 to, as a permaculture educator, describe in 3 to 5 minutes how you would teach what is permaculture to someone. So she did it in a song, and it was absolutely brilliant. She's actually a professional musician, and she got her whole family involved in this. And then Somali here, who's based in Kakuma refugee settlement in Kenya, he'd gone through the Perma Youth training program face-to-face with our Perma Youth trainers over there. And he said, this is brilliant, but you know, it's going to go much further and faster if we sing it. And so he's now got a whole series of songs. He's creating an album. We're going to try and see if we can get it on a vinyl, well, actually a bio vinyl that can go. We're talking with people at Abbey Road Studios. I don't know how this happens, but the refugees are now starting to create a record that will have connections with Abbey Road Studios, and they've got a mud brick solar panel powered water collecting music recording studio that's almost finished being constructed, sponsored by the Grateful Dead. So things strange happen when these connections are made, and it's just wonderful. So I'll play you a little bit of music soon. And the other thing that happens too is that community action takes place. So it might be you get stuff happening in your own place, but also to take it out to the community. So this is Bemriki, one of the trainers in Ramonja, and he's going out to schools. There's another project that's just taking permaculture to all the schools in Tanzanian refugee settlements. People are getting involved in the Australian City Farms and Community Gardens Network, doing work with that. There's someone I spoke to early on in the course who said, through this course, I'm starting to see my neighborhood and my neighbors differently. And we're starting to exchange and trade things. And that's never happened here before. And I start to see my garden as being more than just what's in my boundary, but what's happening in my neighbor's garden. So they're growing bamboo and I collect that to make mulch here, and people drop off the food scraps and I give surplus away. And so the boundaries become more fluid. So talking about community, there's a lot that goes on in terms of the possibilities for creating community through this course. So you can, if you choose, just, go through the course by yourself and really not have to interact. That is totally fine as well. But if you would like to be part of interactions, there are lots. So we have a Facebook group, and I'll show you inside that in a minute. We have a WhatsApp group where lots of chat happens. We also have local groups. So there's different groups that are in different places that are starting to get together. So we actually have a map. That means you can find where other people are as well and connect. There's some language groups that are happening. There's communities of practice. So some people who are really interested in design, for example, will start to come together around that. And you can suggest anything. We're about to start a EcoGames, a permaculture games group, to see how we can actually design games to share around. And so most of these happen with live Zoom sessions. So we get together and we get to meet one another and see, there you are, Dee, I can see you below and I can see you on there as well. And so they're great. They're a really lovely place. And, again, if you don't want to be part of this, you don't have to, but they're there and it's available for you to drop in and be part of these conversations. So this is inside the Facebook group, this bit here. So each module within the course is connected to a module in the Facebook group. So I don't know whether you knew this before, but you can set up a Facebook group so it has units. And so every time where someone's doing some work in the food forest section, for example, I make a suggestion, why don't you drop that into the Facebook group? And so what you get here is this stream of projects that you can, it's a gallery, it's an encyclopedia of resources that every year this course is happening, it gets bigger and bigger. So if you get stuck, for example, going, I don't know what to do, and module 17, you just click across into this. And even if you're not on Facebook for anything else, I would encourage you to just be on it with a private link, just to come to this private group. Then you get to see what's happening. You get to see drawings and videos and pictures, and you can ask questions and people will support you in answering there. And I'm in there too. So that's the Facebook group. And, I'm not a huge fan generally of Facebook, but I think in terms of this, it is a really useful tool. And then we have the WhatsApp group. So with the WhatsApp, what happens is that you can ask questions, you can post pictures, you can share resources, links. There's an event that might be coming up. There might be, a really great conference that you think other people would like to know about. So that goes into there. And then, like I said before, on the last Monday of every month, we have the masterclasses, and they're different topics. And there is a collection of those. So if you've missed one, you can go back and watch it later, or if there's one that's happened 2 years ago, you can have access to that so you can see what's happened. And then, so that's the Permaculture Educators Program. And then I also have this shorter introduction to permaculture gardening online course. And you can see here, these are the modules. So the ones on the sign, they're actually behind me here. The modules in the course. So there's 6 core modules, and then there's 3 extras. So the 3 extras are the beauty garden, the tea garden, and behind my line of people here is, what is that one? Cooking a garden feast. And so again, it's self-paced, you start any time, no expiry, and it has a Facebook group attached to that as well. So that's kind of an introduction course. So the Morag Unplugged program is essentially a permaculture business design lab, focused on how you can design your business, design your marketing strategy, design all of the sort of how to get your program out. So there's one thing designing your program, the next thing is actually making it work as an enterprise. So this is sort of a small group mentoring program, and we have a whole new structure that's emerging for next year. So if you'd like to find out more about this, we can, I'll share something with you later that you can actually let me know if you're interested in that. What I'm really interested in this is that I am totally dedicated to the idea that permaculture can be a hobby, can be a way of life, but we absolutely need more people who this is their work as well, whether that be a layer on what you're already doing or it's something new that you're creating. That the idea of permaculture and one planet living is something that is able to myceliate around the world with people speaking up and speaking out about it as permaculture educators, which is why I've particularly designed the main program of the Institute to be an educator's course, not just the design course. And I think the two together make a beautiful wholeness. And so in order to support that too, what I'm doing in this coming year will be creating a summit, which is basically an online conference, bringing together leaders in this field and also giving an opportunity to people who are part of this course already to share what they're doing. So it's a platform for members of our program to let the world know, which is also part of supporting our students in getting the word out to help them in developing their programs. There is a new program that's emerging as well, which is really looking at a sort of a monthly program where you can dive into the nitty-gritty about permaculture. And rather than trying to tackle a big course, maybe some people just want to start with this month-by-month approach, which will be looking at sort of principles of design, looking at practice. So that's the permaculture way. And then the Permaculture Presence will be a short course. And this is kind of one of the first of a series of short courses that we're going to be delivering on the same module format that you saw earlier. Permaculture Presence is about how you create a social media presence for yourself. So how do you get seen? And how do you get seen in the busy world of social media? And it's not about trying to kind of get caught up in that world, but just to have, you know, your face in that. So that will be a short course, and I've got a whole series of short courses coming. And then there's the Permaculture Education charity, which is called the Ethos Foundation. So the Permaculture Education Institute, together with PermaYouth and our charity, supports, this year we've been able to support 1,500 people to complete their permaculture design course in refugee settlements in East Africa, and also to support women's self-help groups and young girls sanitary health program, personal hygiene programs, and PermaYouth hubs throughout East Africa, and also now starting in Indigenous communities here in Australia and beyond. It's a global movement. And the young people connect with elders. So you're welcome to come along to these, however old you are. You don't have to be under 18, but it is led by the youth, run by the youth for the youth, but connecting intergenerationally and cross-culturally. And so there are wonderful opportunities for this to happen. So sometimes they have festivals, sometimes they have workshops, they've run photographic competitions, film collaborations, and at the moment they're working on a podcast. And so all of these things together have been we've received this year the Lush Spring Prize, and we've been shortlisted for the Influence Award, the winner of the Hilda Jackson Award, which is the Global Eco Village Network's a global award, and the Youth in Permaculture Prize from the Permaculture Magazine and the Abundant Earth Foundation for this work that's been happening through, particularly with the refugees and the youth. So as well as all of that, every week I pop out a podcast talking with someone who's either deeply involved in permaculture or is some way connected with permaculture. So it's an opportunity to expand the field of our understanding what permaculture is and how it makes sense in so many different field. So as you're entering into this world of becoming a permaculture educator, you get to draw on this knowledge of amazing leaders and thinkers. And I'm really excited by, you know, where the podcast goes. So you can access all of that anytime. And next year, what I'm planning to do is start to create some forums where we bring together a collection of these people together in a forum where you get to meet and ask questions of them too. And of course, there's always the YouTube channel, which is gets new material all the time. And you can dive in there and pluck out lots of different references. And, you know, if you're struggling with something in your design, I can often point you to where you can find reference materials in there. And the blog as well has lots of articles. Now, what I'm wanting to do very soon is to invite people who are members of the program who are interested to start to become guest writers. Now, why this is important, because this gives you a platform to be able to start to share to the world. Actually, Joanne started doing this. She's written a blog post for this before, but I would love to see more people start to write in here because it goes out to so many people. And so that's really helpful. So, so just to let you know that this course, the Permaculture Educators Program, is, I don't know, where do I put the money? I think that's next time, next slide. So it's actually $2,997 and you can do payment plans with that. But I'm also at the moment including in the Incredible Edible Garden course and also a one-to-one consult. And that's whether you want to have to talk with me one-to-one about your design, one-to-one about creating an education program. But I also have roped in the person who helps me with ethical marketing to come in and also be available to talk with you if you want to work out how to create a business with that as well. So yeah, that's what I was looking for. So you can either pay upfront as a one payment, or you can spread it out over 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And that's how that works. However, if you are from either the global south or part of, you know, you're in a refugee settlement, or you're, you know, one of the younger members, we do absolutely have this, you know, the ethic of fair share embedded into what we do. So, you know, earth care, people care, fair share. It's absolutely essential to me that we make sure that we have accessibility across the board. And anyone who's here that knows, we have so many people who come in from all around the world joining us regularly on the live sessions, and it's wonderful to have such a diverse group of people involved in the program. So I might, just before I open up to, you know, if any of the students would like to jump up and say good day and say what the course has been for them and ask some questions. This is the website, and if you go to permacultureeducationinstitute.org, that's where you'll find all of the information about the course. So you can look there and you can get all the background details of what's inside as well. And what I wanted to do was share with you the song. So I have the song from Alison that I said that I would share with you, but what I need to do first is just stop sharing so I can reshare with the audio switched on. There we go. Okay. Now, I hope this is going to work. If someone can let me know in the chat if it's not going to work, so let's see.
The polar ice caps are melting, and the bushfires are raging, and the oceans, they are rising, and the wildlife's disappearing. I know it sounds kinda dreary, can make you feel kinda weary, but people are good and kind and clever, and we can fix this mess together. We can reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, but it doesn't just stop there. Rethink our ways, rebuild the soil, regenerate the land, rewild the world, replant the tree, replace coal and gas, reimagine and redesign our lives so we can reconnect with nature. It's all about the way we live, the choices we make and actions we take. We can simplify and slow things down, grow our food right here in the town. So many people in just one place. We could have less stuff and make less waste. Make some compost, plant some fruit trees, grow some flowers for the birds and the bees. We can reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, but it doesn't just stop there. Rethink our ways, rebuild the soil, regenerate the land, rewild the world, replant the trees, replace coal and gas, reimagine and redesign our lives so we can reconnect with nature. Chickens and the worms eat the scraps that we toss. Pumpkin vines growing out of the compost. Lawn looks fine, but it's hot in the sun. An edible jungle is way more fun. It all comes down to earth care and people care and fair share. The solutions are all out there. Permaculture's everywhere.
There we go. Wasn't that amazing? I love that song. You know, what I think I love about that so much is that she took all of the ideas of permaculture as an introduction and popped it into that song and got her family involved. And so that song is one of the resources that's available. You know, she posted that into the Facebook group so that everyone could hear that. And then, you know, if you're a student and you ask her, you could possibly well use that as part of your class to teach permaculture, or, you know, so there's all this cross-fertilization that happens. So I think that was so lovely. So there's another song that I'll share with you at the end, but I think it's really important now to have a chance. Maybe if there's anyone from the course at the moment who wants to just duck in and say, g'day. Maybe give us a wave if you're from the course, actually. There's a few of you here. We've got a couple of pages on. There's Kestrel, Stacey, Joanne, there's Deb, Dee, Danny. Wonderful. There's quite a few people. So would anyone like to jump in and just say hello in terms of what the course is, what you've been doing with the course? Oh, I see more people too. I see Paul and I think there's Jenny, lots of people. Oh, Joanne, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Joanne. I'm based in the Philippines. I finished the course last year, I think middle of last year, I think. And as Morag has mentioned, I'm a writer, a visual artist, but I'm also a homeschooling mom. And but before all that, I was also in the nonprofit sector. I worked with Ashoka I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but basically Ashoka looks for social entrepreneurs around the world and then connects them. So these social entrepreneurs solve problems, social problems in the world. And basically, what I'm doing now is I'm working with Ashoka, not as a part of their team, but I'm bringing in the permaculture knowledge that I got from this course, because it really does apply to what these social entrepreneurs are doing, because they're applying systems thinking in solving problems. And permaculture is really about systems thinking as well. I think that's one of the great things about permaculture. You can really connect it with whatever you were doing before or what you're doing now. So it's really great. I hope you guys join the group. It's a very lovely group. The WhatsApp chat is always active. So I hope to see you guys.
Thanks, Joanne. It's always so inspiring to see what you're doing. And Joanne's about to, she's designing an online course for the Ashoka group at the moment. And so, even though she's finished the course, we're still talking and continuing the conversation. So, if you want to, you can lean in for further help. Just because you finish it doesn't mean it's over. You're part of a community, and if you'd like to continue to have a relationship with the community, that is more than welcome. So it's really up to you how much you lean in at different times. Yeah. Is there anyone else who wanted to duck in and just say g'day before I open it up for questions?
Yeah, I'll join. I'm Kestrel. I'm an Australian who is now living in the Netherlands. I came to know permaculture through an eco-village community not far from Morag in Australia, and I did my first PDC there. But arriving on the other side of the planet in an entirely different situation, and I realized that when I did my first permaculture design course, I only looked at the specifics of what was happening in the subtropics. And so it was almost like, well, let's go back to the basics, because everything I thought I knew doesn't really work here. So I do like this about what you're doing, Morag, is that there is such a strong international component, and there's so many different climates, there's so many different ideas, and really the cross-pollination of people who are coming from different backgrounds is super helpful. And here I'm busy with my husband. We've got a couple of hectares of food forest, and a little business of they call it here a plakbos, which is a self-harvest forest, and I do biodynamics, and I'd like to be able to teach it. It's really going off right now in the Netherlands as a response to the crisis of the climate and of carbon here. So there's a lot of funding available and a lot of new startup food forests here. So for me, the ability to be able to teach people is a big part of it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Kestrel. And I think you've touched on a really interesting point there too, is that when someone discovers like a movement of something or an avenue for possibilities, that gets shared in and it sparks a possibility for, so it's not like it's just this fixed content. There's all of the other stuff that happens around it. It's constantly feeding into the kind of the soup of the learning. And I think that's where a lot of the richness comes from, is the live sessions that happen. And, I love the sessions where we get together and get to do that sharing. And I'm always in those sessions as well. So it's wonderful to see everyone. So would anyone else like to jump in, or I'm totally open for anyone asking questions as well. Stacey, go ahead.
Hi everyone, just quickly, I'm from Sydney and I live in a highly developed area, so my interest in permaculture is, well, apart from the whole picture, is sort of focusing on urban permaculture, in backyards where I actually live, there's lots of units. So how can I apply permaculture to small spaces where I'm sort of looking at the moment? So it's not, yeah, so you can apply permaculture to all sorts of different spaces. And I guess I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Stacey. And Stacey helps out too behind the scenes with quite a lot of things in organising, you know, community events as well. So thank you, Stacey. Yeah, it's wonderful. So Stacey's been one of our founding members of the course. And so it's wonderful now to be able to work with her every week to do things too. So that's great. And we're looking at the possibilities as well as the community grows, that if people are interested and as they're developing through the course, to become tutors. So there's, you know, there's work opportunities that can start to emerge through this as well. I noticed that there's a question here from Jane Marshall. Hi, Jane, saying, I'm wondering how close these courses are to Jeff Lawton and Bill Mollison's design course textbook. Well, the Permaculture Design Certificate course is based on a particular curriculum. And I've been teaching this permaculture design curriculum since 1990 something. And the way that I designed my permaculture design course was accredited by Bill Mollison directly. So my history with permaculture goes kind of back to the beginnings of permaculture. And I've adapted this course so that it has its roots in that, but it also expands in lots of different directions based on the experiences that I've brought to permaculture over my 30 years of being involved in it. And so so it does include that, but it includes more as well. And it's not just me, it's everyone who's part of this course bring their wealth in. And so my approach that I think is a little bit different is by being super community focused, giving possibilities for the community to define the space and create opportunities. So the film club, for example, came out of the community, all the different possibilities that emerge, different ideas, different conversations, different directions get often driven by where the interest and the skills are, and so that shapes that as well. There was a question about whether you have access to the recorded version of the presentation. Yes, I will be sending this out later on. So that's that. I'm just zipping through the chat here. Okay, I can't see any other questions there. Does someone want to jump in and ask a question? Yeah, go ahead, Jo.
My background is writing, but also early childhood teaching. And I also live on a property which is well established, 40 years old, which half bush, half productive garden. And I guess I'm trying to work out whether this course is a good fit for me in a new career. So do you think the course would be relevant to teaching small children?
Absolutely. So really a central part of what we're focusing on is identifying early on, who is it that you're wanting to work with, in what kind of context. So that could be on your farm, it could be at a school, it could be something that you do through writing or film or music. So for example, Alison, who was the music, her idea is to work with children with permaculture, and she is writing a play that she is going to take around, a musical play that incorporates story. And so I find it fascinating how different people take on thinking about what is permaculture, but then adapting. It's not like you have to teach a 2-week permaculture design course by coming through this. Maybe what you want to do, I was talking to someone the other day, and what they wanted to do was to focus on working with youth who are kind of getting themselves into a bit of trouble, or youth who have issues with mental illness, and take permaculture and adapt it to that. Now, you wouldn't then go, okay, well, you have to sit through a 2-week permaculture design course, or you would create something that fits. So you can create workshops, you can create songs, you can create music. Really, the idea as a permaculture educator is you are accredited to teach a permaculture design course should you wish to. However, it gives you the opportunity and the flexibility and the input to design whatever kind of permaculture education program that you think is going to meet, and then draw on the ideas that are around the world, ask questions, find resources, see who's doing what, and build up something that's going to work. And so whether it be your question particularly related to children, or whether it be related to youth or schools, or whether it be in your organization or your company, maybe you can create in-service programs. Maybe you could create, like what the architect was that I mentioned. He created a program that went into the university to talk about that. So professional development. So it's yes is the answer. And in terms of you having your quite well-established place, if you were thinking about your site as being a possible learning center, then as you were going through the design part of it, you would be thinking, how can I layer on to my current design a type of design thinking that would make this be adapted to be also a learning center as well as my own? Or are there things that I could add to it from, you know, to make it more functional and usable as well, if there's things that you want to tweak. So if you're kind of almost there or already there, there's always something else that you can add to it. But if you're right at the beginning, it's also a spot to just start there. I find that wherever people are coming at the course, you know, there's so many different entry points for adapting it to your own context. Cool. Go ahead, Ruth.
Hi, Morag. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you too.
I miss Kestrel. I'm back in the burbs, city life. So I'm just wondering, does permaculture incorporate regen and native bush tucker? Absolutely. Or native food, native?
Yeah,
bush,
absolutely. So permaculture, the idea behind permaculture essentially is that as humans, we try and find a way to have the least footprint as possible, so that there is more space for nature and more space for regeneration to take place. So really that's kind of the imperative behind it, that we design and create sustainable human habitats with the possibility that creates for regenerating the damage that's been done in other places. So whether that be in our own place or beyond our boundaries, and weaving within our places, yeah, absolutely, local native plants for habitat, local native foods, really connecting in with what is the Indigenous history of the place, learning from elders if we can find them, or seeking them out. And actually one of the modules of the course is to go out and see if you can find deeper information about that, or find someone that you might be able to explore those ideas with. So absolutely and totally, I don't see there be any particular split between those, you know, whether it be native or exotic. I think, you know, really what it is creating the most sustainable human habitat that we possibly can, and that our work be contributing to cultural and ecological regeneration.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Before I go to you, Kestrel, I just noticed there was a question in the chat. Kate said, is there an enrollment date? No, absolutely. You can roll any day of the week. And whenever you start so you start today, you'll get a module immediately, and then the next module will come exactly a week later. So if you enroll on a Tuesday, Tuesday is going to be the day that you get your modules. So that's how it works. And because people work at all different paces and have started all different times, it's not like you come on and you go, okay, so today we're talking about this. We're constantly talking about multiple things. And so, you know, we might be talking about food, forest, and soil and water all at the same time. And I think that helps us to get this sort of systems approach thinking to it. And you know, sometimes we can rehear something again that we've touched on before, and it gives us a sense of it from a different angle, and it deepens and lands our knowledge every time we talk about it. Kestrel, I noticed you had your hand up.
Oh, I just wanted to say something to Ruth about that, about this, the idea of native forests. You know, something that I did in Australia was worked with the Gubbi Gubbi people, also with bush tucker regeneration, bush regeneration. And now I'm in the Netherlands, and it's very different because there isn't that same history of people who know about what is native and how you use things. And so one of the big things that I'm doing here is connecting with as native as it gets in this part of Europe, you know, and making about half of our food forest is a native food forest that tries to do a whole heap of things, you know, and on permaculture basis, you know, like so bush regeneration, we also did in Australia on a permaculture basis, but also running this food forest as a native food forest that has so many multiple benefits in it, but people are really surprised because you can't buy native food or bush tucker food in the shops. But it's fantastic because it's a niche then. And I think that there's so many possibilities, and in Australia, things like, you know, the native figs grow so easily. They're a fantastic regenerator, and by themselves they don't taste very good. But if you work them up with something that's a little bit moist, like strawberries and figs and as a jam, there's a whole heap of different things that you can do to use those native things that can put the spotlight back on the natives as being a fantastic, productive part of our diet.
Thanks, Kestrel. I notice we're over the hour, so I might try and wrap up the conversation there. I would love to encourage you to continue to ask questions. We have you can either email me directly, or there is also a Permaculture Education Institute Facebook page if you wanted to duck in there and ask questions. What I'll do is I'll send you a follow-up email giving you the possibilities of where you can ask these questions and how you can find out more information. I think there was a little question there from Lena. Is there a specific online library for students during the course? So what there is lots of references to different books. Some of them are licensed, obviously, so I can't give them to you for free, but wherever there are free resources, free books, free films, free whatever, we reference them in the course, so then you can access them. And often people are doing that too through the various Facebook groups. You know, some things I just simply can't give to you as free materials, but as much as I can, I do. And that's, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for coming along. I know some people are starting to say they need to go. So I really appreciate the time you've taken to be here today to find out about the course. Like I said, if there's anything that you'd like to know, follow up with the links that I'll send you shortly, and really happy to keep talking. And if you really would like to follow up with a one-on-one to dive in deeper, if you don't really feel like you've got the answers to your questions today, I'll also send you a link so you can do that too. And thank you to everyone who's part of the Permaculture Educators Program who are here today, sharing about their experience. And hi to Danny Amani. Lovely to see you here. Danny's from a refugee settlement in Tanzania, and he's actually leading a program to get permaculture gardens in 21 schools, I think. We've just started with the fun. What I didn't mention was actually a lot of the work that happens within the permaculture communities in the refugee settlements is often sponsored by people within the program who get to meet people and go, they're doing amazing work, you know. And so I let you know what they're doing, and so anyway, Danny's starting that. And I'm really sorry to hear today that one of the members of his Perma Youth team passed away. So I'm really sorry to hear that, Danny. Yeah, my condolences to his family. So again, thank you everyone for being here. It's been lovely to meet you and chat with you, and I hope that some of your questions have been answered as part of this process, and that you've got a sense a little bit more about what this program is, what it's about, what's inside it, and how you can dive in further to get more information. So again, thank you, and have a great evening or day or morning, wherever you are in the world. Take care, everyone. I look forward to meeting you again soon. Bye-bye.